Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're making an iPad holder for your bicycle. Well, you heard me 100% right. An iPad holder for your bicycle, or a tablet holder for your bicycle. I'm not condoning riding a bicycle with a tablet attached to your handlebars, but what it is, for me anyway, is in the winter when I can't get out and ride my bike, I have my bike set up on a trainer, and that bike is ridden indoors. And during that time, I like to watch videos. I watch all kinds of different videos while cycling, and it's just something to pass the time away. But I usually have the iPad off at the side somewhere or propped up, and it's a real pain in the neck. And I got the idea that maybe I'd like to make a holder that I could temporarily place on the handlebars in order to mount my iPad to it, and that way I could view it without having to bother with, messing around and, propping it up here and there. So that's what we're going to do on today's show. And it all starts off with some 3/4 inch thick scrap maple. Well, the first thing we want to do in this project is make our mounting brackets. And for that, I have a piece of 3/4 inch thick maple here that I found up in the rack. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line across here at 2 inches across, just like this. Now this is going to be our mounting bracket right here. We're going to make 2 of them. So while we're at it here, we're going to draw a center line. Now at this point in time, you are going to need to know the thickness or the width of your handlebars. And in the case of my handlebars, they are 1.25 inches in diameter. So we are going to need to mark 1.25 inch diameter hole here. But we need to leave some space on both sides of our 1.25 inch hole, because that will be our mounting hardware for tightening our bracket. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to measure in 1 inch from either end, and this will be our brackets. This will be the end of our brackets. And we want our 1.25 inch hole to start right there at that mark. So we will take our 1.25 inch template, just like this, and draw it out. And there will be the hole for our handlebars. Okay, so this now is the basics of our bracket, but it's really ugly. So how long do we want them to be? So let's say 5.5 inches long each. So what I'm going to do is put a mark here to mark the end of our mounting bracket at 5.5 inches long. Just like that. And as well, we'll do it on the opposite side. So at this point now, we want to kind of pretty this up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to round off this section right here and this section. That'll be the top. And then I'm going to curve it down and round it off here. I think for this, I'm going to do it with a compass just so I can get them to be perfectly uniform. So with that compass still set, we can round off this corner here, and we can do the same thing on the opposite corner. And just to make it a little better looking as well, I'm going to use a 1.25 inch template, and we're going to round off this inner edge here and this inner edge here. Just looking at this, I think I'd like to round off these edges here in the corner as well, just to make that a little nicer looking. It's another one of those fly by the seat of your pants builds, boys, and I really have no plan in mind. I'm just going with what looks or feels good to me. There we go. Okay, so let's take this over to the table saw, and I'm going to cut this into its 2-inch width, and as well, we're going to cross cut it into our 5.5-inch lengths. Well, the next thing I'd like to do is I think I'm going to take this over to the drill press, and I'm going to drill out our 2-1/4 diameter holes. Well, we're going to go for a little bit of a design change here, and all it entails is that this round off that we have right here, we're going to eliminate that. I don't need it, I don't want it. I think it's going to cause me troubles because I need to put a mounting bolt right here, and that is going to be the next step that we're going to work on. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to place a mark in from the edge here at 5/16 of an inch, and that will be the center point between where our circle here meets our straight line. Right there. As well, what we're going to do is come in here from this end at 4 inches. And at each one of these points, in this end right here, centered on our 3/4 inch side, we're going to drill an 11/32 inch diameter through hole right up through both of those points. All right, so with those 2 holes drilled, I'm now going to take it over to the table saw. I'm going to set my fence for 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to rip it right along here. So essentially, we're going to separate a 5/8 inch wide piece right off the bottom of our design. So at this point, you should have something that looks like this. However, by cutting that with the kerf of the blade, we've messed up our round over at the end. One of the issues of a fly by the seat of your pants build. Not a big deal. We will clamp this back together or just hold it in place just like this. And I'm just going to redraw that round over here at the end. And once I get this redrawn, we're going to take it over to the scroll saw and cut out our perimeter. And with those being cut, those are essentially our mounting brackets. The only thing I have left to do here is I want to take a 1/4 thread, threaded insert, and into our 11/32 hole on the inside of each of these pieces, I will be screwing in these threaded inserts. This is going to allow us to clamp these down onto our handlebars. So we've run into our first snag with this, and what it is in this section right here, some bonehead, and that would be me, and my fly by the seat of the pants build didn't leave enough material here, and in screwing in the insert, it's actually splitting apart the maple. Not a big deal. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and all I'm going to do is I am going to trace out a 1/4 hex nut here into this area. I will gently chisel it out so that I can get the nut to fit in there, and we will CA glue in a nut to hold that in place instead. All right, so I'm going to carry on with sinking these in. That hole's a little looser than I would like, but you know what? That's okay. I think to avoid any damage or any splitting, I'm going to do all of them like this. I'm going to abandon my idea of our brass threaded inserts. I'm going to cut in all of these nuts, and we're going to go that route. Well, with those brackets done for the most part, it's now time to make our platform, and it's really nothing special. So what I have is some 1/2 inch plywood, and I want it to be 6 inches long. So we're just going to place a mark here at 6 inches. As well, I want to place a center mark. It is 5.5 inches wide, so the center of that would be 2 3/4, just like that. Now, from measuring my bicycle, I know that from inside edge to inside edge of my brackets, I need 3 inches. So I'm going to measure out 1.5 inches here from either side, just like that. And that will give me my mounting place for the brackets that we made. So our mounting brackets will end up sitting just like this. And this will be the top. So I do not want this thing to be squared off at the top like this. So I'm just going to get my compass. I'm going to kind of see where we're at here. Right about there looks good. And I'm just going to round off the top. And as well, in the middle here, I'm going to make some cutouts. I think I'm going to go 1/2 inch space, a 1/2 inch cutout. So I'm going to mark that 1/2 inch. Let me just show you here. I am flying by the seat of my pants here, so I know it seems like it's not clear, and it's probably not. And you know what? Honestly, it's not even clear to me. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Here we go. Okay, so there's a 1/2 inch there, just like this. And there is another one right here. I'm going to come up 1 inch from the top, like that, and 1 inch from the bottom. And then I will use a circle template to round these off. All right, so once we get these marked, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the scroll saw. I am going to cut this out. Well, with that piece cut and the holes, I don't know why I even put those there, just for some visual whatever. It's now time to mount our brackets, and they will get mounted on the underside here, right at that same mark that I needed it, just like this, with 3 inches space in between them. I have the handlebars down here at the bottom because I would like the iPad to be up kind of like this when it's all said and done. So I'm going to sand this up, place the marks that I need to on the back, and glue these brackets in place. And when I get that done, I guess the next thing we need to do is get a lip on here so that our iPad doesn't fall on the floor. So for the lip to hold the iPad, I'm using 3/8 thick maple. I've cut it the same length as our platform is wide. I have rounded off our corners, and it's 1 inch wide here. I'm just going to glue it to the bottom, and that will hold our iPad in place. It's not like it's going to be bouncing around, so it's not going to fall off. I don't even need a lip on it because it's going to be on such a flat angle on the handlebars. So I'm going to glue this in place, and then the only thing left to do with this is to take it inside and test it on the handlebars of my bike. So all we need to do is place our brackets onto our handlebars here, and I'm using some 1/4 by 1 inch bolts, and truth be told, I had to drill some holes in the underside of our platform here in order to give me room for these 1 inch bolts to mount, or to be able to screw up inside. And all I'm going to do, so I'll just screw this up in here like this. Do the same thing on the other side. And then we can mount our bottom bolts And once we get them all tightened, just like this, there should be nothing left to do here other than to mount our iPad. And there you have it. An iPad rack for your bicycle. Guys, this was, I'm not sure if this was a useful project for the show or not. For me, it's extremely useful because I have a need for the project itself. Because I do view my iPad while on a stationary bike, I have a need for that. And while I would not suggest that you ride around in the city with an iPad strapped to your handlebars, this project could be modified and shrunk down to fit, I don't know, how about your phone? Which may or may not be useful to you depending on whether or not you use your phone as a GPS while you're riding your bike. But for me, the iPad is essential to kind of occupy me while I'm pedaling away in the winter inside. As much as I like bike riding, I enjoy it outdoors where there's things to see and it's not so mindless. Once you're inside, it's complete boredom as you sit on the bike and all you do is pedal. There's no steering involved, there's no balance involved, there's nothing involved. So it's good to have yourself distracted by watching the iPad. And now I have a way to have it mounted right in front of me on the handlebars. Now with that being said, even though I watch videos while I ride, there are apps out there that track your riding, that connect to your trainer. Things like Zwift, where you log in and it logs into your trainer, and through Bluetooth it tracks your progress, and you could ride virtually with other riders around the world. I have tried that app and it's spectacular. And what a great way to have your iPad right there in front of you so you can see what's happening. Before, when I tried the app, I would have to have it off on a stand off to the side, and when other riders go by and wave, you can't click the iPad to wave back and say hello, so you end up looking like a snob. But here it is now. I have the ability that if I want to use that app, the iPad is right there in front of me and fully usable. So is this a useful project? For me, yes. For you, you have to decide that for yourself. Guys, there are modifications that can be done to this without a doubt. Let's start with the mounting bolts. You don't have to use bolts. Depending on how much space you leave, you could use jig knobs if you wanted it to be able to be removed quickly at a moment's notice. Now, I kind of messed up in my design by not giving enough space for those threaded inserts, and therefore I had to chisel out for the 1/4 nuts. It's not really a mistake, so to speak. It's just not thinking far enough ahead in the build. And that sometimes happens with the fly-by-your-seat-of-the-pants builds. And that's one of the things I love about them, is that they provide an opportunity for troubleshooting and problem solving. And while I ran into a problem with not being able to use the threaded inserts because they were splitting my wood apart, I was able to come up with a solution, and in the end, a very usable product that I'm happy with. Guys, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. What do you think? Was today's a useful project, or was this pointless? Tell me what you think below. I'd like to hear from you. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that you found the product or the program worthwhile today. I honestly hope that you're going to try this yourself, and more importantly, I really hope that you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.